And we are live. Hello and welcome to the Doubting Thomas Monthly Recap. I'm your host, Adam Douding. Joining me, as always, is co-producer. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and give him the title. Co-host, Cliff Thomas. How you doing, Cliff?
Upgraded.
You just got a promotion on air. Isn't that amazing?
How cool.
And great news. You're going to get twice your salary that you got before.
Woo!
Yeah.
So now I have to pay twice as much to Patreon?
Exactly. Anyway, congratulations. Welcome everybody to the Doubting Thomas Monthly Recap. This is the New Year's Eve show, kind of, sort of. It's about as New Year's Eve as we're going to get on this podcast, and it's about as my birthday as we're going to get on this podcast, because my birthday is still a mere 4.5 hours away. But tonight is what worked, so we're going to go with what works. So happy December 29th to everybody.
And
so
happy almost birthday to you, or happy birthday to you, or happy after birthday to you, depending on when
people are listening to this.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's a decent chance this might come out before New Year's. I don't know, possibly. I actually don't have a lot lined up for New Year's Eve, so like before midnight, so I could probably get this knocked out. Anyway, that's planning. We don't need to talk about that on the air. So Christmas just came and went, so Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa to everybody. I know I got some decent stuff. Anything you wanted to share with Cliff from the holiday?
Well, I got a really nice sweater. I got some beautiful blue socks from my daughter, which she bought from like the Santa shop at the school. She's 6, so that works great.
Those Santa shops are adorable.
You know, something that was really good that I got, actually, not a sponsor, but Squatch soap, which I don't know, that it's one of those that you see a lot on like Instagram ads and things like that, but I fully endorse it. It's really good stuff. Like I've really been enjoying it. And then, you know, I'm pretty good at getting myself presents,
right?
So, and I just set
year
up
round.
I set up Stream Deck. I got the, I think it's a Stream Deck version 2. It's not the Plus or one of the really, really fancy ones. But so far, I'm really excited for it, and I'm getting in some Elgato, which is the same company, lighting. Actually, that's so the next time you see me, I'll be beautifully lit, and I think that actually integrates with the Stream Deck, so I'll be able to just reach and press a little button and turn those on and off, which is pretty cool. So I had a good Christmas. Other than my sink drainage froze, and it finally just unfroze.
Oh, that's no bueno.
Today, yes, I got to eat out a little bit. Side benefit, I guess. So how was your Christmas?
It was good. Speaking of like Christmas presents, Douding, look at that. Like,
wow.
Yeah,
I didn't even think about that. I forgot about that.
Yeah, Mr. Cliff, the jerk that he is, surprised me with a Christmas gift. This is a Rode.
It's an NT1 Plus.
Yeah, you know what it is. I don't do gear, but yeah. So it's a Rode microphone to go along with the Rode headphones, and like Rode is like the premium podcast gear brand. You know, like you've got the blue microphones. The Yeti is like kind of like your standard. Like, I need a podcast mic. What should I use? Oh, here's a blue Yeti. But Rode, they up it a little bit, and I think you'll notice I sound a little bit better. Actually, a lot of it better, to be totally honest. But
I think if anything, we'll sound more like we're on the same page audio wise. Yeah.
Right. I will not sound like crap anymore, as Cliff put it off air. No, he didn't say that.
I didn't say that.
I have to admit, I'm gonna miss the Elvis mic. It is such a conversation starter, because like every podcast that I've been on, everyone's like, "Whoa, what microphone is that?" And I'm just like, "Yeah." But anyway, so no, this is a great mic. And like, what else did I get? I don't know. My wife got me a bunch of Lego stuff galore. You can see one of them is behind me next to Baby Yoda. I got a Baby Groot to go with the Baby Yoda. And another Lego set, which it's behind my head. There you go. It's the Boba Fett spaceship guy.
Oh, okay. I couldn't tell what that was. Okay.
Yeah. So, and like, my wife got a few of the other things on my Amazon list, which were naturally techie because that's what I do. But I don't have Mr. Review Cam up and running, so I can't show you the new the desk size mouse mat that I got, which is basically a world map. But what I didn't realize at the time when I added it to my Amazon wish list was it actually has time zones on it. So like I can look and see, oh, China is 8 hours ahead of GMT, and I'm 5 hours behind GMT, so that's 13 hours. I can do that math now, which is very handy actually. So I plan to get some mileage out of that. But just it was overall it was a good Christmas. I feel like I have off years and I have on years when like I feel the Christmas spirit and I don't. And I think actually we'll probably longtime listeners might remember last year was definitely an on year. This year was kind of a little bit of an off year, but that's okay. 2022 was a bit of a challenge. So
I think it was a challenge for a lot of people. I'll tell you, just as an aside, so the day after Christmas, my daughter and my wife went up to visit their family. So I've had the house to myself for the past week or so, and so
nice.
so the day after Christmas, that evening actually was 4 a.m. of the day after that. So I'm fast asleep, and I hear this gigantic crash, and my cat had climbed the Christmas tree and knocked it over and broke. It turns out a whole bunch of bulbs of
ornaments.
Ornaments. There we go. That's the
Okay.
word. That's the word.
word.
The ones that were kind of special to my wife, as it turns out. She got back today, and I'm like, I'm not sure which ones got broken because they were all so busted that it was just all that was left of the little hanger is
glass.
And I mean, I'm up at 4 a.m, like sweeping everything up so that I'm not basically stepping on broken glass when I get up the next day. So, needless to say, I still don't feel like I've caught up from that morning, like sleep wise. But anyway,
indeed, yeah. And sleep wise, don't even get me started. Like, you know why I can tell that I've had such crappy sleep is because of my wearables that I've been wearing, the Garmin and the Apple Watch. And it's funny, as you looked up, like, I can't believe he just segued like that. The camera zoomed in on you, and it was just like it was like such cheesy like 90s cop drama, like dun dun dun. But yeah, so that is the segue. That is the segue, and this is the hill that I'm dying on. Anyway, so no, what we're here to talk about mostly for this particular show is we did our Apple Watch Series 8 review over this month in December. I think it went live about a week and a half ago or so, and you are still wearing it as we speak. I've got my Apple Watch SE as right here, and we also talked about Garmin. Because I was in the process of reviewing the SQ2, sorry, Garmin, the Garmin SQ2, which is Garmin's second square-faced watch for Slash Gear.
Means. Okay.
Yes. Excuse me. So I had just either was finishing up the review or had finished the review, whatever. And like, I gotta tell you, this is such an interesting question to me because we talked about this on the podcast. Like the app support with the Apple Watch is just unparalleled in any other wearable form, but the battery life on a Garmin is insane. Like it's better than Fitbit, better than Samsung, better than just about everybody. It's to the point where, and this is such a first world problem thing to do, but when I go to CES next week, I'm wearing the Apple Watch while I travel and wearing the Garmin when I get there. Because like I want the app functionality while I'm actually traveling, and I want the battery life durability when I'm actually on site. So it's like, it's again first worldly problem, but like I just after I finished my SQ2 review, I kind of didn't want to go back to the Apple Watch, because it's just
because of the battery life.
Because of the battery life, because
Gotcha.
I can go to sleep any time and not have to worry about, do I need to plug in my watch for an hour before I go to sleep, or do I need to plug it in for an hour after I wake up? It's so refreshing. And like I used to be the person who would always be like, "Oh, you don't need more than a day of battery life because you can charge it overnight." Blah blah blah. Well, I mean, once you throw sleep data into that mix, you're killing that argument.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's something that if you've been using a smartwatch like the Apple Watch, or any Android Wear watch, really, I don't think you realize how freeing it is to have a smartwatch or a feet. It's funny. I almost think of like a watch like what you have is like in the same parallel as a feature phone versus a smartphone, right? So
Yeah.
I would call what you have on right now on one of your wrists, I would call a Garmin more of a feature watch, right? But once you use one of those and have that, the length of battery life that it has, it really, yeah, it feels like you're untethered.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And the other thing is, it's the argument that in my mind is key is the battery life sacrifices that are made for a air quotes traditional smartwatch. And at this point, I think Apple is the only one that has the appropriate functionality in order to justify those battery life woes. Like a Samsung
Totally
does
agreed.
not,
Yeah.
the Pixel Watch definitely does not. And just to give an example, Christmas, I was using a smart meat thermometer that I reviewed for, I think for this podcast, like 2 years ago or something like that. The thing was actually 2019, so maybe even 3 years ago. It's called the Meter, and link in the show notes. And it's it's
Sorry.
a it's a
It's a
smart.
pun name. I love it.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. You put it into the meat, you set up your cook on the app, and then the charging base for the meter is a Bluetooth repeater. So you put the Bluetooth repeater up next to your stove, and then you can go all around the house, and it helps you cook. And we had a roast beef that was cooked to perfection. Thank you, meter. But at one point, I was just like, you know what? I think while I've been scrolling through the apps on my watch, I think I actually saw that there was a meter app on my watch. And sure enough, there's a meter app on my watch that told me how much time was left in my cook, what the ambient temperature was, what the internal temperature was. And like, I'm just like, you gotta be effing essing me. Like, I can check on my roast beef on my watch, people. Like, show me another smartwatch anywhere that will do that, because you can't.
I mean, it really is like, I think you're absolutely right. That the point that you made about the trade-off in the rich functionality that you get with app support with the Apple Watch and the integration is really the only way to justify having a smartwatch that has that, kind of battery life versus a feature watch like a Garmin or
Or a
competition
Fitbit.
or Fitbit, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But like, and the thing is with like Garmin's and Fitbits and like Mi Bands and stuff like that, you can get 4, 5, 6 days, even a week out of them. And that's okay. Like, that's a good battery life. Like, that's a decent amount of battery life that you can, not worry about it for a long time. And then like, oh yeah, I guess I should plug this in, at some point. Whereas, and I don't want this to be a crap on Android Wear or a crap on Wear OS podcast, but like, Wear OS doesn't meet either of those criteria. It neither
Right.
has the long battery life, nor does it have the functionality and app support that Apple has. It's just, it has the crappy battery life that the Apple Watch has, and it has, like, I guess, the fitness functionality that the other ones have, but so does everybody else. There's just like, what are you doing, Wear OS? I guess maybe that should be the title of this podcast. What are you doing, Wear OS?
I think the one trade-off is that at least with Wear OS you have potentially more style options, right? Compared to
more style options, and like some of the functionality is there, like the ability to reply to notifications, the ability to use Google Assistant, which is still only there on a couple of different smartwatches, not rolled out wide
it's only
yet.
2 if you're counting Samsung's models as one, overall.
Right. Right. And so
Mhm.
like that's not even there yet. But the ability to like write out a reply to it, you can't do that on a Garmin. And that's a good thing to have. That's a valuable thing to have because sometimes, you just want to, although with this Garmin,
Do you have like Alexa or something built into it? Any kind of voice assistant support with it?
it
With one
has
of their
voice
models?
assistant, but I'm not sure. Hang on a second.
Try all the different names.
What's the weather like outside?
One possibility I see is side street studio arts on Ziegler. 5 stars on Yelp. Does that one sound good?
Ladies and gentlemen, Siri. Thank you very much. God, you're such a moron, Siri. So this Garmin
I thought that was
actually,
your watch.
it is the watch. It's using I've
Oh.
only ever used the Garmin with an Android phone, and it always accessed Google Assistant. So I wasn't sure if it was going to do Google Assistant or if it was going to do Siri because it was paired to an iPhone now. As it turns out, it does Siri, and Siri's a moron. So that's where that result comes from. But I was just curious because I had never tried it. But this is one of the first Garmins that has a microphone in it, so you can make and receive phone calls with it and stuff like that. So, but if you push and hold this middle button, that's how you access your assistant. So you can even do that with the Garmin watch, which is a step above what you could do with like a Fitbit and other stuff like that. It's not terribly useful, especially when Siri's on the other end of it, but it is what it is.
Well, I know. I think some Fitbit. Well,
I won't respond to that.
Yeah, that's okay. Nobody asked you anything ever, Siri.
Shut up, Siri.
Oh, God.
I do think at some point that, and it might have been before Google purchased Fitbit, but at some point they did have Alexa built in.
Okay, yeah,
And if I'm triggering Alexa for somebody, I apologize.
Yeah, sorry about that. And I think there are some smartwatches out there that actually still do have Alexa built in, which is fine. I find Alexa to be useful, like when I'm shopping or asking about the weather, and not really much else. But it is what it is. I just, it's kind of like when you've got Google Assistant and then everybody else, it really does. Although Google Assistant have you asked a smart screen what time a store opens recently?
No.
So I've been doing that on I've got a Google Nest Hub here, and I've got the Lenovo smart screen upstairs in the kitchen. Whenever here, watch. Okay, Google, what time does FedEx open tomorrow?
Showing pictures that match.
Yep, and it comes up with a picture of a FedEx logo.
How nice.
It has been doing that for like a month and a half now, and I have no idea why.
And it's just on the smart displays?
It's just on smart displays. If I ask a phone, it will tell me what the hours are, but it's just deeply weird, and I have no idea why that's broken.
Ladies and gentlemen, the state of modern technology.
And I've tweeted to Google. There's probably a Google contact that I could reach out to if I really wanted to run this down. If I wanted to play the press card on it, but I guess I probably should actually, because there's potentially hundreds of thousands of people that are having a really bad experience at this right now. So maybe I should just ask. I should see if Google's at CES actually, because Google has been at CES in the past.
I'm sure they will have some kind of presence there. Yeah.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there. What we're here to talk about is wearables, and specifically what's the trade? I mean, where do you stand in terms of battery life versus functionality? Where do you think you like? Because I don't know if you've used a lot of fitness trackers. You've mostly used smart watches.
Here's the thing.
Okay.
I have owned, as you know, and I said this in the Apple Watch review recently, that I have owned quite a few non-Apple smartwatches, right? Most of which have been Wear OS.
Yeah.
Or Android Wear, depending on when it was. Same
right.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I have always found that I end up just not wearing it very often.
Okay.
And some of that was because of the battery, right? Like the fact that I've never had a smartwatch even now that lasts longer than 2 days. And I think even if it was just subconsciously, it was because Well, actually, there were two things. I'll say this is like an aside, but with Android Wear, it was such a pain in the butt to have to like because I do switch smartphones quite often, or I did, and you had to reset your Wear
Yeah.
OS smartwatch in order to use it with something else, and so I was just
Annoying.
so annoying. So that was part of it, but I would just find myself like I'd get excited and wear it for about a month and then not wear it very often. And so with the Apple Watch, this is really the first smartwatch that I've worn consistently because I guess I've found that I get enough value out of it to wear it every day.
Okay.
And I have said previously also that I am not a fitness person, and so I can't remember the last time I used anything from Fitbit or the competition. So while I would appreciate um the battery life, I don't think that those would offer me any kind of benefit to um sacrifice the things that I get with the Apple Watch. And so I think they would be very similar to Wear OS devices, and then I think I would wear it for about a week and then it would go away.
Then it would go away. Okay,
Mhm.
yeah, and I respect that. If you don't mind my putting you on the spot a little bit, like, what do you use your Apple Watch for? Because you referenced now that you have the functionality, you're wearing it more consistently. What kind of functionality are we talking about? Like, what's your use case for the Apple Watch?
So really a lot of the things that I've been doing are just like triaging the notifications on my smart watch, or I'm sorry, on my smartphone by getting things like email notifications, texts from Telegram and from my wife with an SMS or iMessage, I guess, things like that, where it's really
Mhm.
nice that I can now just leave my phone example for example on my desk at work or on my on the coffee table here, and I can for an example walk outside and I
Yeah,
can take a phone call and not have to worry about, oh my gosh, is my Bluetooth connectivity gonna cut out.
right.
Yeah, like I think I said, yeah, I did say that on the review right now. I definitely have not used the Apple Watch to the fullest of its capabilities. In that I don't have a lot of like I don't have anything really going on smart home wise that's tied into Apple. It's all Google stuff, and even that I just don't really use that much with a smartwatch, although I guess I could.
Yeah.
Um, and not a lot of apps that have more of like a secondary app functionality on my smartwatch. So it's pretty simple stuff. It's really just notifications and basic contact and connectivity. But again, the fact that I have it with the LTE connected, the mobile connected version of it really has, and that actually may be like outside of the fact that it's an Apple Watch, may also be one of the reasons that I'm wearing it more
Okay. Is because of
because
the
of that
mobile
always on
functionality.
connectivity, right?
Because
Yeah,
you're paying for it, you may as well use it.
yeah, that too.
Yeah.
That's never stopped me from things
Very true.
so
Okay. All right. And that's totally legit. Yeah, I definitely do not use much of the fitness. I'm into sleep tracking just because
yeah.
like I want to know why I feel like crap every day. And as it turns out, I do not sleep nearly as much as I should. Like Garmin actually goes so far as to give you like a sleep score.
Hmm.
And I think for like the 3 week stretch that I was reviewing the Garmin, I think I hit fair once.
Oh wow.
Like all of my sleep was like poor, 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 crappy, poor, poor.
Curious
Why
what
are you not dead? Poor, poor.
technically you should be dead right now.
Yeah.
What is the reasoning that it gives you? Do you wake up a lot in the middle of the night? Do you
I probably go to bed too late. I probably wake up in the middle of the night too much, and I don't know. I just toss and turn a lot.
Mm,
Especially around the holidays, it's been stressful. So, I'm probably just not sleeping well that way. And I know my wife hasn't been sleeping well either. So I think even subconsciously, I'm picking up on that.
yeah,
But yeah, I do get up like probably 2 or 3 times a night.
I do
Just
too.
because, yeah, it's just not good. When you get on the wrong side of 40, folks, things
I
start to go away.
Well, yeah, you just can't go as long
Yeah.
between certain things, and I mean, and honestly, I kind of remember my dad going through this too. This is again an aside, but yeah, before you said that, I was actually just thinking the exact same thing. I think it's just I think I'm going through like a body chemistry or something kind of change right now, a change of life, if you will.
Yeah.
And I definitely wake up more at night, and I find it. I mean, I used to hit the bed and I would wake up maybe once, but now I'll wake up 2 or 3 times at night, and not always because I have to pee. I mean, sometimes I can't fall
You
back
just
to
wake
sleep.
up. Yeah.
And then I'll go out and I'll watch some YouTube on TV or something, just trying to get myself to go back to sleep. And I honestly I couldn't tell you why. Well, but maybe that's what a smartwatch is for.
Maybe. Yeah, I'll tell you, the other night, just again, we're getting way off topic here, but the other night I fell asleep at like 9:30.
Yeah.
And I woke up the next morning at like 7:30, and like I just felt so good.
It is
all
amazing.
day.
You
Like,
don't realize how bad you normally feel until you have one of those nights and you're like, I feel amazing.
yeah.
Is this the way other people feel?
And so when you measure like your previous days against this day, you're like, oh, that explains it. Okay,
Exactly.
I got you.
Then you go back and you're like,
You know what I did get for Christmas? Sorry, I just glanced over at my Slack and I realized. But my wife got me a new Scotty vest coat.
oh,
Nice. So you'll remember in what crappy shape the last one was. So
I
I think there'll be.
Scotty vest.
It was a Scotty vest. That was one that I reviewed for Pocket Now. So that's how long I've had that bad boy.
Billion pockets.
Yeah. So yeah, there'll be a review coming on that for the podcast here. But anyway, so we really need to stay on task, probably because neither of us slept last night. Anyway, but yeah, so
we
like,
had something to track our sleep.
I know, but like sleep tracking is actually like one of my primary use cases right now. I would actually rather have the watch off during the day than I would at night, because like sleep tracking is as close as I get to health tracking. Because I'm a fat man. But
I just can't fathom why I don't sleep well at night.
Yeah. Well, see, that's not even a thing for me. I don't even drink that much pop anymore.
If you're listening to the audio version of this, I just held up. It is now, let's see, what, for me, 9 o'clock, and I'm drinking a Diet Pepsi with caffeine.
Yeah. I mean, at least it's diet.
That's true.
But yeah, New Year's resolution: we're not going to buy pop in our house anymore.
Yeah, I need to get away from it.
Yeah. It's like I said, bad things are happening, so it's time for some things to go away.
Let me tell you, I will just say, for anyone that's looking to kick the pop habit, just go with flavored. My daughter calls it bubbly, so we call it bubbly. But like,
I can't do
LaCroix or
nope, gross.
I thought the same thing, but once you get used to it, it's honestly not so bad. And then when you have a soda, you're like, oh my God. it's just like smacked in the face with flavor. But anyway, it did.
I worked for a startup in downtown Chicago. Trust me, I've been exposed to LaCroix. LaCroix. Anyway, so I guess it turned. I thought this was going to be a super meaty topic, but I think we pretty much just like determined that Garmin's are good because they last forever, but Apple Watches are good because you could do anything on them, and Android Wear sucks. I think that really is kind of our thesis statement for this particular show.
Let me just talk about Garmin real quick. I have never owned a Garmin smartwatch, so I don't have any experience with them.
Yeah,
but I was actually thinking something earlier today, and that's the fact that I could never look at Garmin's lineup and tell you what all the different names are. I think there's one called a Vivo Active, but
yep,
they have so many different models. And what's cool about them, even though it can be confusing, I mean, I can't imagine trying to sell, like working at like an REI and trying to sell all the different watches that they have. I would be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Kind of like Samsung and their A series. You're like A10.
Yeah.
But they have a line of, I mean, because their smartwatches go up into or fitness tracking watches go up into the thousands of dollars. And, our friend of the show, Michael Fisher, a couple of times has reviewed a, I guess, what am I trying to say?
The
Douding, but there's a different,
commander,
it's it's geared towards people who go out on the ocean or go out, on boats,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think that's really cool that they have, because I know they have ones that are also targeted towards people that that race, or people that are pilots,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
the style reflects that. So the style actually kind of it tries to mirror the style of like a diving watch, or uh the aviation watches that have the really simple faces and things like that. But just I and the quality of them really looks awesome. I don't know. I think Garmin. It's funny because when I think of Garmin, if you go back like 20 years ago, I just think of them as being you'd buy like the aftermarket navigation unit, because your
Yeah.
car
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
have it built in.
Totally.
And now Garmin's got this whole other thing going on. That's just, I don't know. It's
Mm-hmm.
fascinating to me. And
Yeah, the Mark series is, by the way, is what
okay,
you're thinking of.
gotcha.
But yeah, because they've got the Mark Captain and the Mark Aviator and the Mark, for different, like,
Hmm.
it's really focused on different occupations. But yeah,
Right.
I mean, like, you go to Garmin's website and they've got smartwatches that are, I think it's largely budgets that they're focusing on, because they've got the Forerunner
Yeah.
series, which is, the Vivo Smart series, the Vivo Move, and like they start at like about $150 and they go all the way up to, the Mark, which is like almost $2,000.
Right.
So, they're I've always considered Garmin's to be a little bit more expensive than their health competitors. Like
Right.
Fitbits, you can get for $99. The Me Band you can get for like $50. And like they still do some real basic functionality, but I think just with the Garmin, you're getting a level of quality there. And when you put it up against like a Apple Watch Series 8, Garmin's aren't all that expensive,
Right.
Because the
Or the
series.
Ultra for that matter. It just depends on what.
Oh yeah,
And
you put.
and I mean, I think
Yeah,
part of that too, in the same way that you can buy some expensive Wear OS devices from um, brands that also offer designer or expensive
yeah,
mechanical watches, right?
yeah,
Um, that I think I could take like the Captain as an example out on the town and not feel like I'm going to look at a place, or like I'm going to look like a nerd, because it actually looks like a traditional luxury watch.
yeah, yeah. Whereas, or if you have a Venue SQ2, it looks like an Apple Watch from a distance. So
Right.
definitely nobody will
Isn't that funny?
look at
I
you
guess
funny.
I'm not surprised, but because the Apple Watch has been around for, I think, 10 years now. And when it came out, I was like, a Squircle? No one's going to want to wear that. And then at the time, if you remember, they had all of those designer brands, all of the fashion brands there in the audience when they introduced it. And they had, fashion accessories that you could buy an Apple Watch for $10,000. I don't know if that's still the case, but now,
Right, right.
as is the case with a lot of other things that Apple designs, they have so many emulators to the
Yeah,
to the point where now I've actually seen non-smartwatches, not like just regular analog watches
that are square.
that look like that, yeah, or not just square, but emulate the Apple Watch's style.
Well, I
So
mean,
it's come full circle.
think about
No pun intended.
the Wise Watch that we reviewed for this
Right.
podcast about a
Mhm.
year ago.
Oh,
That's
that was definitely
basically an Apple
clone.
Watch clone.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so and I think one thing that I actually kind of lost respect for Apple a little bit for was when they came out with the always on display, which I think was the Series 6 or Series 7. I don't remember.
It's fairly recent, yeah.
But yeah, it was a fairly recent thing. And
You mean when
because
they invented it?
right, when they invented it. No, because like the reason I lost a little bit of respect for them was because I felt like before that Apple really understood what a smartwatch was, which was a second screen on your wrist that also can happen to tell you the time. So like it made sense that the screen was off when you were swinging your arm down by your side, because you don't need to see the time when your arm isn't, like, when your hand isn't directly in front of your face,
Wow.
and so I felt like when Apple gave in and like came out with the always on display, and everyone's like, finally, I won't have this black square on my wrist. I'm like, Why did you care? Like, it's not like you can see the black square. And when you could see the black square, the face was lit up, so it didn't matter. You know, like
and while they touted it as not being something that they felt was needed based on they justified it as much as they could with marketing speak when the Apple Watch came out. I mean, I think that they would have implemented that had they felt like the battery life would be acceptable.
Sure. And I think they got it to the
finally
point.
caught up. The processors have just, for one, become more efficient.
Yeah, they got to a point where they could justify the battery drain, but at the same time, I kind of wish they had stuck to their guns and said, you know what? This is a screen on your wrist that happens to be watch shaped, not a watch that is also a phone.
You can turn it off.
Yeah, I know. I don't, and the Apple Watch SE doesn't even have it, so it's really not that big of a deal. But the Garmin Sq2 did, and I turned on always on display, trying to kill the battery. It still took me 3 days. You know, and it's like
versus what without it? I'm curious.
I left. I'm gonna say about maybe 8 to 10 days with the always on display off.
That's crazy, the amount of difference, though.
You have to understand, I only reviewed it for 3 weeks. So, like, I didn't have a whole lot of time to play with the battery settings and figure out what will kill it faster. All I know is, like, I turned everything on full bore except for the GPS, which was, pulse ox monitoring, heart monitoring, always on display. I think those were like the 3 big things that you could change. I turned all of those on all the time, and I still got 3 days of battery life out of it. And when I turned off the pulse ox monitoring and set that to just nighttime, because I need to know what my my blood oxygen level is at night, because my doctor is trying to convince me that I have sleep apnea, and I keep showing him the data to say I do not drop below 90% anytime during the night, buddy. And so that's like the only thing keeping him at bay. But anyway,
taking out the pamphlets for I forget what those are called, the CPAP machines.
Right, exactly. So when I set when I set that to nights only, and I still had the always on display screen on, I want to say it was about like 6 days, give or take. And then, if I turned off the always on display, I'm positive I would have gotten 7 to 8 days, give or take. So it's no joke.
Well, I mean, I think with today's discussion, if we've done anything, it's to reinforce that, number one, there's a variety of different options for you out there, and that
absolutely,
if you're looking for something that's fitness focused and you don't need the app integration that something like an Apple Watch gives you, then I think you're better off going with something like one of the Garmin's that you reviewed, simply because of the battery life freedom that it gives you.
It does. It's amazing, and I love it. And like I said, it was almost enough to make me not go back to the Apple Watch, because I've got the Venue 2 Plus, which is what I'm wearing now, which is what I will wear in at CES. And I probably won't bother to charge it between now and the end of CES. It'll probably be just fine. Which is just you're right. It's freedom, and it's freedom. But no, it's liberating, honestly, is what it is.
Yeah.
It's a really great feeling to know that you don't have to run back to a charger every day and a half just to, not have a watch that's dead. It's so dumb.
And still get your sleep tracking and things like that.
And still get your sleep tracking.
Right. Mm-hmm. So the things that you value most, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, any New Year's resolutions for 2023? I think the podcast has already gotten through a lot of its resolutions where, we've already done our pivot, and we're making some changes to the podcast in advance of the New Year. So we won't be doing anything specifically there, but yeah.
I don't know if I want to call this a New Year's resolution, but I am trying to be a little more in the moment with my life and get away from social media. I just got rid of Facebook.
That's good, because social media is trying to get away from you. Thanks,
There
Elon.
it is. Yeah. Did you see Tesla's? As of like yesterday, its stock price was down to $100.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I knew that it was back to like pre 2020 levels.
Mhm.
So, and yeah, that's not going well. Yeah,
Well, stockholders
we'll talk
are
about that next month. We'll talk about that next
And with
month.
that bombshell,
Yeah, yeah. But no, yeah, I agree. I think I could definitely stand to be a little bit more in the moment, a little bit less workaholic-y.
yeah.
You know, especially now that I'm back to freelancing. You know, like if you're not working, you're not making money, and that just
Right.
kind of eats away at the back of my brain. So, but you know, I'm very as tumultuous occupationally as 2020 was. I'm glad that I landed at Slash Gear because I am having a great time over there. You know, just the people that I'm working with, the things that I'm doing, you know, I'm not siloed into specifically mobile, which is a good thing because I like, you know, I like to stick my finger in a lot of different pies. So, you know, the next thing I'm reviewing for Slash Gear is a vacuum cleaner. I mean, like this is pretty good stuff.
You're
you
living
know,
the
that
dream, my friend.
I'm living the dream, and yeah, so like I'm happy where it ended. I can't be upset about 2020 because you know, it was a means to an end.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was a rough year. But
Yeah.
I'm glad
Yeah.
that we're back. I'm glad that you and I are back because you know for a while there it looked kind of dodgy, but as to whether or not we were going to make it back to the
right.
airwaves. So no, I'm glad that you and I are figuring this thing out, and I think I think we're onto something here.
Yeah, I do
So
too.
we're just gonna
Loving
have
the
to.
new review format, loving you know, and I think it's also giving me a chance to try some. When I say it's giving me a chance, I mean this new format, um, the new things that we're trying is giving me a chance to try some new things, to create
Yeah.
some things outside of, you know, that maybe are a little outside of my wheelhouse of my experience, and I
Yeah.
like that. I mean, you know, going back into the fact that you and I are in our mid 40s ish now. You know, sometimes you kind of feel like, I don't know, like, am I going to age out of the creative stuff? Am I going to, you know, is it time to like put on the coat and tie and being in more of like a managerial role because, you know, maybe you, and there's a struggle with feeling relevant, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and you know, this to me, regardless of you know, where things end up, but I mean, I love learning new things, and this gives me that sort of the confidence to say, hey, I can still try new things and learn new
Yeah.
things and grow, right? Like this isn't,
Definitely.
it's not time for me to have a midlife crisis and buy a sports car.
Not yet. Not yet.
Mm.
Maybe soon. But no, definitely not yet. And I think overall, you know, you're still when I say you, I mean the listener will
Right.
still continue to see some evolutions with this podcast. You know, we were off air just before this. We were looking at some new graphics and stuff that we can
Yeah.
integrate into the show. So, like, really, you know, this podcast is definitely moving forward, and that's a good thing. We're on a semi-regular schedule at this point.
Mhm.
So, and we're
Putting
starting
out more
to.
content than we've ever put out before, I think. So,
I think so. Yeah, we're doing good. Actually, another episode just went up earlier today on YouTube.
oh,
So yeah, it's a little bit late. I meant to do it a couple days ago, but hey, whoopsie, new format. We're still playing. We're still learning. But
mhm.
anyway, so let's go ahead and round things out. I'm going to wish you, Cliff, a happy new year and a happy 2023, and all to our listeners out there, happy new year, happy 2023, and yeah. So cool. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. Please consider subscribing to the podcast, the audio podcast, if you're listening to this audioly, and the YouTube channel if you're watching this. Hit that subscribe button, smash that bell, and you'll get all the new episodes as they drop. And if you want some early access, jump onto Patreon at patreon.com/benefit of the doubt. I would like to thank co-producer and co-host Cliff for all of his hard work behind the scenes. I think the co-hosting is going to be unspoken though, because honestly, co-producer just kind of rolls off the tongue a little bit better. But anyway,
Yeah, I agree.
I'd like to thank co-producer Cliff and co-host Cliff for all of his hard work behind the scenes. But most of all, and as always, I'd like to thank you for listening and for giving us the benefit of the Dowd.